Yeah, and so, I mean, obviously a lot of our audience, they're first-time investors. What would you tell someone who wanted to get into real estate, how they could get started?
Get started. Get started. The story of that 2015, I took that Van Merrill Flip This House class then when I started that construction company, and I was like, oh, I'm too busy, to start flipping homes. Like I got all this other stuff that's not paying me very well. And I also couldn't get over the fact that how do you find a house that's discounted so much that you could actually make money on it more than once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime? And it was back to networking. So it took me 5 years to get into it. And I think we bought 10 houses our first year.
Jeez.
And so it was like, once you step in and meet someone who's kind of doing it and gives you a little bit of guidance, like it's a lot easier than it feels like it should be.
Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran. I'm a multifamily and short-term rental investor, and I'm also a realtor in the state of Oregon and Washington.
Hey everyone, I'm your co-host Jordan Lee, and I'm a mortgage loan originator licensed and based in Portland, Oregon, and I'm also licensed in another 8 states, and I invest in single-family homes. Stephen, who did we interview today?
Yeah, so we interviewed my good friend Kurt Mclaughlin. He is a commercial contractor, or he started out as a commercial contractor. He eventually started his own business doing commercial contracting, and I know he just recently got married to one of our past guests, Jennifer Florent.
Yeah, and so together, I mean, he started his own business, and now together they do flipping and they do some holds too, flip and hold, and they invest here as well as in Portland, as well as in Florida. So I think if you're interested in vetting a contractor, learning about the contracting world, shielding yourself from liability, this would be a good episode for you to tune into.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 51 of the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran.
And I'm your co-host Jordan Lee here, and we're super excited to have Kurt Mclaughlin on the show today. Hey, Kurt, do you mind just giving us a quick backstory, kind of your journey to Portland and your sort of subsequent journey into real estate, or maybe it happened before then? And I guess, we'd love to hear your story.
I'm actually from Portland, so
I
actually lived in Aloha, graduated from Aloha High School all my life, never went anywhere.
Nice.
That's sort of that. I've been in construction most of my life, so in 2015 I actually started my own construction company. I actually took a 2015.
What were you doing before then?
Construction.
I see. I see what you're saying. You started your own company in 2015. Yeah.
Yes. That wasn't the first time I'd started my own company or failed at it. So back into been in commercial construction the whole time.
And what were you doing back when the crash happened, pre and post 08?
In 08, I was actually building a hospital in Seaside, doing some work down there, and then I was the first of that mid-sized company, 50 employees, to get laid off in 2009-ish. But in 2010, my first house from a bank with my wife at the time. So that was kind of my first intro into, wow, we got a smoking deal from this place, but it's kind of a crap hole. So I had the experience, and we spent 4 years rehabbing it and building it up, and ended up getting divorced and selling it and making a ton of money. It was great. And that was in 2015 when I took that money and started a commercial construction company as well.
Oh, okay. So so you've always been more on the commercial side until recently, or?
Yes, in the construction industry, I've always been on the commercial side.
Okay. Which
gave me a good insight into triple net leases and sort of how that whole side worked. It just also feels like a lot more money to get in. But I'm sort of discovering how that's not necessarily true either.
Interesting. How do you fall into commercial construction?
When I was 15, I started construction with one of my neighbors. He during the summer, he's like, "What are you doing this summer?" And I'm like, "Sleeping." And he's like, "Get in my van. We're going to work." So that was my intro into construction. So my neighbors, sort of brought me into it. It's what blue collar neighborhood or Carhartt neighborhood, I guess.
Yeah,
sure.
sort of started into it, and then another neighbor was a commercial carpenter, and as soon as I graduated from high school, it was just natural. I enjoyed doing it, and it paid well. So I bought my first house at 20 through that. So, and then just spent 25 years kind of in that industry.
What did you do with that house that you bought when you were 20?
I turned it into a rental. I was a horrible landlord, and then gave it back to the bank.
Oh, okay.
Not really. I sold it, but sold it in 2001 or 2002, kind of the 9/11 crash. So it appreciated $40,000, and then when I sold it, I sold it for about $10,000 less than the height of that market.
Okay.
More learning about real estate.
And so then you were working commercial. Are you still doing commercial construction, or are you all residential now?
No, not all residential construction. I only do construction that's involved with either like multifamily or rehabs, our own personal rehabs. We do that, but pretty limited right now. So working with another couple partners on a development project where we're just doing some asset management, so managing the construction project as a partial owner. So.
Oh, okay. And what is your kind of sweet spot? So it sounds like you do some flips. What are you looking for in that field? Like how do you do the numbers? Like what's your goal? Because you're coming at it as the contractor as well as the owner and flipper. So where is your spot there?
The typical numbers of everybody is 70% or so. So we're trying to purchase at 70% of ARV. We're trying to guess what the ARV is, and also not have it be in Portland.
Oh, okay. So you're doing a lot of your work still in the metro area?
Yeah, just outside of Portland. We're definitely looking more west side stuff. We don't have anything right now. I just sold the last deal at a great loss about 2 weeks ago.
Interest rates, or what made it a bad deal?
We had it for 2 years.
Okay.
The permitting was kind of a nightmare. We had it in the height of COVID when subcontractors were kind of a nightmare. Material was double the price. And then we, instead of selling, tried to refinance out. And then all of a sudden, interest rates started multiplying. And so that just made it difficult. One of the partners was couldn't get it done. So we spent an extra 8 months just working through that process.
Yeah.
So.
No, I have a similar experience. I have a property with a very high interest rate that I'm not very happy with either, but I'm holding on for dear life. So, it's part of the game. It happens. And, I feel like I notice a lot of our guests, and obviously we interviewed your wife, Jennifer, in the past, a disdain for Multnomah County, which I think is pretty common, but I think we never really get into the specifics of that. I mean, I know that it sounds like with your business model that you're adamant about not touching anything there.
I would love to say that I'm adamant about not touching anything there.
I mean, obviously, if you have the best deal in the world, we'll take it.
Yeah, I'm actively looking there. Like, we actively look for off-market stuff. If you know Jeff Stevens, I've coached with him before. He's great at the kind of the seller financing, creative financing model. So we're actively looking for stuff that's a little bit more creative financing deals that pencil as either flips or burrs. And if it's in Portland, then it's just more criteria loads up. Like, we need to be looking at neighborhoods. How's it really going to pencil? How's it really going to rent? Does it going to make its full market rent in its location? It should rent for $2,300 a month, but because there's no parking, or because there's a homeless camp down the street, or because of this, what are the real, how do we really feel about it?
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, obviously from the construction side, I know that the permits for that might be more difficult or more expensive.
I did a flip in Montevilla, and we ended up having to get a permit for some stuff that we wanted to add. And we were able to get a FUR permit in a matter of like 3 weeks.
We were able to, sorry, can you say it again?
A FUR permit, so Oregon, or Portland, specifically Portland, not in the counties, but in Portland Metro, has a the FUR program, which is certain contractors are basically licensed to get the permits through the city. They have their own inspector. And so you kind of have to go through the same process. You still have to do plans. You still have to meet all the codes. But as soon as you turn the permits in, basically you can start work. So since we were kind of through the process and we're like, oh, we want to do this stuff here, brought our contractors for that. And they're like, okay, we're going to need a permit for this and this and this. So we had our drafter draw it all up, submit the plans to our basically inspector and got started. And we closed that permit out, start to finish in a week and a half.
Oh, okay.
It was not in a historic district, and it didn't require community involvement, so no exterior changes either. So
let's talk a little bit more about that for a program. Is there a specific dollar amount that is capped at? Is there certain structural work that you can or can't do, or it sounds like the contractor has to be qualified for it, right?
The contractor has to be basically licensed for it, so that it's a specific thing they go through the city of Portland for.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find a contractor has their FUR permit license, and then you can get on the list of the city of Portland and find FUR contractors. If you're doing like street side improvements in certain neighborhoods, then you have to get community involvement. So you have to like post it, notify, make sure that.
What kind of improvements would that be?
If you're in like a historic overlay district, or you're trying to encroach like a build further out the front of the house, or add a DADU in the back, or encroach that 5-foot the different setbacks. If you're trying to get closer than what is already prescribed for your location, then you have to go through those. You can get.
So if you're some way altering the front of your house that faces the curb.
Yeah, or some dormers. It's different areas have different kind of requirements for that.
Okay.
So checking that out first. But if you have a basement that you just want to, turn into more living space, or essentially an apartment, you can't quite have an apartment through the FUR program, but you can build it out about 95%, do everything but a door or everything but the egress through that FUR permit, get it almost instantaneously, build it out, finish it, close it, and then apply, if it's your personal residence, for that one last piece that makes it the actual ADU, which would be like, now you have to have neighborhood involvement, go through that 30 days or 60-day engagement period, and then it's not guaranteed, but it's pretty well accepted. So, and then finish that last part. So that can really expedite the process versus doing all that stuff first and then waiting for the permission and approval for all of it, and then starting the whole process.
Well, in comparison, obviously, from Monoma County to like maybe, Washington County or Marion County or wherever else you're doing these work, when you're getting permits, do you, outside of like somebody who has a FUR, who's a FUR contractor, would you say it's significantly more difficult to get things done in Portland, or?
No, I would say the attitude of buyers right now is my biggest drawback for Portland.
Okay.
So it's less about the permitting and zoning or whatever. It's more about just the buyer and seller demand.
It is. Most contractors are hesitant to work in Portland just because usually it's lack of parking. It's just sort of lack of parking, high theft. They're just hesitant with the stigma of Portland, and it's just the word. It's not even, no, it's in a great location. Oh, we have plenty of parking. They're just like kind of pulled back already and charge more for it. But different pockets of the different areas, like again, permitting through the city of Portland is, if you can use FUR, is great and quick. But it's a lot more laxed on, the homeless, the camping, kind of all of the rest of it, which even though the West Side, which I'm a fan of the West Side because I'm from here, lived here my whole life, so I know it much better. Like, it has some neighborhoods that I wouldn't want to live in, but it also feels more open, and I think I feel that more on when buyers are looking, it just feels safer. I don't know if it's actually true. I don't know if the schools are actually better, but the stigma is that it is, and so that's the first thing I'm thinking of when I'm buying a deal is, what am I doing with it? And if what I'm doing with it primarily is a sale, then I have to be a seller, and I have to approach the whole evaluation as, who am I selling this to, and how big is my pool for that?
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely say it's definitely safer on the west side. I'm on the west side as well now, but I'm from northeast Portland, and even when I was growing up, it wasn't that bad, but it's definitely worse now. So no, I think you're right, and it definitely makes sense why you would want to go there. Though selling on the east side, there's a lot of people who want to live in urban, walkable neighborhoods that are with older houses and things like that. But it's.
I think we're pretty spoiled. I'm pretty spoiled from being from the area. From here, I've never lived anywhere else, but Jennifer and lots of people I meet come from the East Coast or other cities that are much more industrial and much less safe.
Yeah.
They have evolved from high capacity housing that just crammed into Portland, where we are like, we're fitting a bunch of people in here, and we're still very open. We have a lot of parks, we have a lot of space, but it doesn't feel that way to me. It feels like, wow, Portland's really condensed. And out here on the west side, it's just.
Oh yeah, we gotta take you to San Francisco or New York or something.
I've been there, but it's just not the same. Like, the suburbs are so different, and yeah.
Yeah, and so you mentioned in 2015 you kind of started off on your own, doing your own thing, and kind of want to hear your journey from then, kind of creating your own business.
Yeah, I got fired from a construction company as a commercial project manager. It was a great experience. It was horrible getting fired, but it was the worst culture I had ever experienced in my life. After I got let go, I sort of had this decision of what to do. I was going to move on with another company or start something. I ended up starting something, but I got to talk to kind of employees that a little bit different words when I'm not working there anymore than when you're working there. And it was shared with me that I was the person who had lasted the longest out of the previous 37 people.
Wow.
And it made me feel good, but also like it's like, oh, why did I stay? Why did I stay so long? And it was really kind of a big eye opener into culture and seeing what was wrong with that company and who was wrong and how they sort of drove it and how they kept it that way. And so it was horrible and great all at the same time. And then starting the commercial construction company was difficult. I mean, it was just very much like real estate. Like, it's not easy. Mm. There's not a lot of resources. It's a lot of work. And we were doing, a couple million a year, which sounds like a lot, but profits are pretty thin until COVID hit, and then basically lost about 12 contracts in 2 days.
Yeah.
And I was burnt out from having, $60,000 a month payroll and kind of all of it that was involved. And I've been in construction a long time at that point. So
yeah, what amount of staff do you have with that kind of volume?
About 15 people there, but monthly. So a couple of project managers, a couple of superintendents, a couple of office staff.
And what type of projects did you specialize in anything, or was it?
We specialized in medical and dental offices, so smaller tenant improvements on the commercial side.
Okay.
But
so it was more renovation type stuff?
Very much, yeah. The last project we did was with Metro. We remodeled their cafes in the convention center. Mm-hmm. And so that was about $1 million project by the time you push through everything that they required and everything. But, $900,000 of that was to subcontractors. Right. And then make payroll after that.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously starting a business like from scratch, how did you get these contracts? Like, how did you start marketing yourself and getting out there? Did you have connections before, or how did you build up your business?
I showed up to every networking event that I could possibly find for 2 years.
And you still do. I still see you everywhere.
I still network a lot. But just, social media is this great thing that's kind of horrible at the same time. Like, we tell our kids, like, not to talk to strangers and be careful who you talk to on the internet. And then we have this huge social circle. I have like 5,000 friends on Facebook, and they all know me, and I know like 50 of them.
Yeah.
So like, it is this builder of trust, and it's false. Like, you see people who are saying these things and doing this stuff, and until you actually know that person and then get to know them on a personal level to find out what's going on 24/7, not just that one glimpse you see on Facebook. So I'm often taken back by people who give me recommendations for stuff. talk to me about real estate or construction or permits that don't know me, because I'm like, well, you should really be careful with that, because you don't know me well enough to be referring me out. And if I take advantage of someone or don't perform the way you think, like that's a reflection back on you. And that comes from having that same thing happen to me. And I had some contractors that we were using. I ended up letting them go, subcontractors for flips. And other people knew we were using them, and they were actually using our name. We did this for Kurt, we did this for this.
Oh.
And I'm like, and I find out, they're like, oh yeah, he really screwed us over. And I'm like, yeah, I fired him. Like, why didn't you ask me? And so that's sort of this eye opener of like being careful about who we think we know. And it's not the people, I guess I want to think that everybody's believes the same thing I do. I want to help everybody, and I want to connect everybody, but not everybody's like that.
I was gonna say, so don't send you business then. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna push back with cautiously.
Yeah.
Right. Connect with people.
Yeah.
And believe them at face value. Like, get to know people, and that's the best thing about networking, right? I see you on Facebook. I see you do this. Now I can meet you in person. I can have a conversation. I can hear if the words and actions are matching, and start building up real relationships.
Oh, I completely agree. I've definitely referred out a contractor that had a terrible experience with a client, and it was us. That's our reputation on the line too, of who we put out there. And so I totally understand of like obviously vetting who we're using, and making sure that we know somebody who's worked with them, or we were recommended this contractor who did a terrible job with this person, and they had like kind of like, I'm gonna hold a construction lien against your property, all this stuff. And so it made us think worse of the person who recommended that contractor to us. So it's a whole network thing, and we definitely have to be very careful about that. So
yeah, and that's like reaching out across, as we're doing real estate, so nationwide, like as you're looking out for Florida or Ohio, it's like how do you build a network? How do you get to know actual people there? And that's the kind of beauty of today, is you can have conversations. Like when I set up Zoom meetings with people, like I set up, hey, can I give you a call? Like, hey, can we make it a Zoom? Like I want to see their face.
Yeah.
Just start getting to know who their connections are, and like, you can really build some relationships now, where 20 years ago it just was not the same.
I was gonna say, how do you vet people? Like let's say you have a contractor out in Florida, and yes, they can say all the right things. Do you make them like literally show you what they're doing? How do you how do you kind of keep them in line in a sense?
I'm not a remote flipper.
Yeah.
Like we are looking and actively investing in kind of the panhandle of Florida, and we have more than a dozen friends who live there.
Yeah.
So we have this handyman connection. So we have a lot of personal connections that are from there. I don't know how you do that in Ohio or other states where it's much cheaper to build stuff, but that's find a trusted partner in a real estate agent, someone who has a fiduciary responsibility, with some obligation, versus this person that I met on Facebook that was told by this. So
yeah, let's drill into that a little bit, because you have vetted a ton of contractors and subcontractors, and I feel like in our world, it's the hardest thing to maintain is a good contractor. I mean, we've all gone through different contractors. We've had to switch. We've had to, we've asked for people have asked us for people are regularly asking us for referrals. What are some things that you can recommend for the layperson that's wanting to do some work and doesn't have a good contractor reference?
Man, if you don't have experience, I would say construction experience is sort of a big benefit to that. But without it, now you're trusting someone who's telling you, I need to do this, and this extra is going to be $30,000 or $60,000.
Right.
So, this is where starting with some of the big name brand companies, although is more expensive on the front end, is less expensive learning. So
like just one of the bigger name brand they might give you a heavy quote, but at least they have maybe the funds to back it up, or
and definitely and a reputation to lose,
right,
as well. Like checking references, and there's so many Facebook groups for so much stuff. Like I use it a lot. We ask for references for specific things, but there's a a window company here, I5 Windows, I think is what it's called, I5 Exteriors, big company. So they gave me a quote for a house for about $32,000 to replace the windows. I ended up buying the windows for about $3,000, and I had them installed for like $2,500. But I managed every bit of that. I went and paid with the credit card to buy the windows. I got the right size windows. I got them delivered to our house, and then I had trusted a contractor that was going to install them correctly. It's like the amount of effort, how much is that effort worth?
Right.
I mean, realistically, I should have charged $5,000 to do the coordination.
Right.
I5 Exteriors, they would have done it great. They had a reputation to lose. They had to do it correctly. So, but was that worth probably an extra $15,000?
Depends on the person you're talking. Yeah.
It depends on a lot of things.
For you, no, because you have the experience.
Yeah, but timing, like I paid a lot extra to get stuff done quickly, because you need someone to get it done.
Right.
So.
I mean, obviously you work in construction, you know exactly what to measure, what to get. So it's probably a lot faster for you than somebody who has no idea what they're doing. Do I measure the inside of the frame or the outside of the frame and all this stuff, So it can be challenging for just like anybody to take on that. And that's why these companies can charge that extra 15, 20K.
Yeah, I mean, it's a convenience factor of, if they mess up a window, if they mess up a door, they're eating $500 or $1,000 for that. And
yeah, because the siding wrong, and now you got to replace siding and all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, getting a complete contractor, someone who comes with good referrals, that again, when someone gives you a referral, the comment back is, have you used them or do you just know of them? And when you meet with them, like, do you have anybody we can call? Can we contact? And then actually contact those people. And then when they give you a bid, like the bid is face value. Like, if you go to the car dealership, you can go to 5 different car dealerships and buy, and get a price for the same car at 5 different places, and the number can be different every place.
Yeah.
Do you feel uncomfortable about asking why the number is different? Like, practice saying, why is this cost so much, or what? Can you explain? Can you break this down to me and understand? And then ask the question: is there a place where we can save money, or, is there a place is there something that's making this more complicated and more expensive?
Yeah.
And then, the more they get into the details of it, the biggest thing I look for is like, how do we take guesswork out? Like, we don't know what's behind that wall, and we want to change that wall. Let's not add that wall to the bid. Let's bid everything else that we can really control, and we know exactly what it's going to be. And then let's break that wall out separately. Let's take some sheetrock off and see if it's the surprise you think it is, or if it's easy. Because now we can kind of break those pieces out of the guesswork of the estimate, because they're either guessing how long it's going to take them to do the work and adding up the materials, or they just have a fixed number. We charge $1,000 per window, and sometimes that window costs $150, and sometimes it costs $800. So, like, getting more detailed and asking more questions, and being a serious buyer is another piece. Like, if they think you're serious, if you have the resources to get it done, if you're not just wasting their time and they're the 37th person that you've asked to get a better number on, like, those things are, get 3 numbers, pick one of those people and dig in.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the idea of like an hourly quote versus, just a fixed rate for the project? What do you see as more in your world? What's more common?
Fixed prices are more common, but some smaller stuff, hourly works well. Or if you have a punch list of stuff to do, like, we have kind of a day and a half worth of work, can we just work hourly on that? But now you're trusting them to show up,
right?
Have all the tools, make sure you have all your materials,
yep,
and get it done that way. So probably having a relationship with the contractor already, that's probably better suited, but it can look better on paper, and then the bills keep coming and keep coming. We've had this experience where they brought out 37 people and they really killed it in 3 days, but they had 9 million hours and it cost double what it should have cost. And now you're arguing about like who was doing what the entire time.
Right. Right.
So,
I see. And so I'm guessing that you've had a lot of like legal battles, or maybe you haven't. Talk about protecting yourself that way, and how can you go in a little detail on how liens on projects work when you're putting a lien on the house, a contractor lien?
Yeah, I would give you two things.
Sure.
If you're interested in protecting yourself as a flipper or real estate person, I would look me up on Facebook and reach out and ask me more about series LLCs.
Okay. What did you say? What can you say that again?
Series LLCs.
Okay.
So that's kind of some great anonymity protection. When it comes to contractor liens, like it's difficult because in Oregon, anybody can lien your property for any reason. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, they can just put a lien on it, and then you have to fight that it's not valid. And so they have to notify you, they have to give you notice while they give you the bid that's over, I forget how much it is, $1,200 or something. But the biggest one is contractors not paying their suppliers.
Okay.
So if you have a bigger, like we're negotiating on a big deal right now, that's $1 million, and we have a fairly small contractor who's doing the work, and we're leery about writing them a $100,000 check.
Right.
So the negotiation is, how about we pay for the concrete that's $30,000? We'll pay for that. We'll just pay for it directly, and then we'll pay you for labor at the end of the week, so that we can kind of control the materials side, the supplier side, because they can lien just like the subcontractor can, and you can pay the subcontractor, and if they don't pay the supplier, they still lien your property. You're responsible.
Right.
So it's the same thing with if you have a general contractor that has a $30,000 electrical subcontractor. You can actually write them a check in both names. And again, back to the relationship, like if this is new for you, then a new relationship or a new contractor, like those things are great to know and great to use. Paying them smaller amounts is...
Yeah, that's an interesting part that I never thought of. So, like you said, get the materials, deliver them to the site, and be like, hey, like we'll pay you afterwards. But because, like you said, they can always put a lien on the property if they feel.
As a contractor, it's hard. Like personally, like when you're paying for the materials, so you pay for $1,000 of material, and you send your contractor over to Home Depot to pick it up, and he spends 3 hours loading it, unloading it, doing all that stuff. Like
I've paid for that time before, for sure.
Yeah, so like they're frustrated in that process. At the same time, like, hey, can you put it on your PAR account, and I'll just call and pay for it, so that it gets delivered. So like these people want to save $6 in these fees, and your contractor's like, oh, I'm gonna have to go pick it up. Okay, your price just went up by 3 hours on that side.
Might have to stop and get lunch too.
Oh yeah, the whole thing, and it's just not fair to them. Like they're estimating based on time. And if they got 2 or 3 guys in a truck, like that's a ridiculous amount of time as well.
Yep. And
it's what feels like, especially when you're watching every penny, like we're tripping over dollars to pick up dimes.
Right.
How much for you to provide the material? How much for you to take care of all of it? And what that does too is like, you order 10 2x4s and you needed 12, and now they came and they put the 10 in, and they need 2 more, and you got to pay them an extra day to come back and install them. Like if that was their fault, that's all on them.
Right.
So kind of mixing this, how do we get the most cost-effective way to get this done versus how do we save $2? Mm-hmm. And I got a friend who didn't do the kitchen in a house, and it was a really small kitchen, so it was probably a $3,000 deal. And by the time when it's all done, like, how much does a kitchen add value to a home? I mean, it's especially, I would say, in today's market, like when you put that on the front end, like, oh, I could have spent $3,000 to have this material.
Instead of having a house without a kitchen.
Well, it has a kitchen, but it has the old plywood. It's just
right.
I painted it. And buyers are very picky right now.
Right.
Like 2 years ago that probably didn't matter, but today it certainly does.
Yeah, I feel like when people try to cheap out, it really bites them in the butt sometimes in that situation. Especially, like you said, in a picky market like right now, like things are just sitting. It's like people are refusing to buy properties, and I've literally had this happen. Oh, the cabinets are the wrong color. I'm like, okay, well, like you can paint them. We can get somebody to fix that.
It's such a weird thing, and I hate to use the word cheap out, but I think I'm going to pick on the Open Doors and Zillows of the flipping, where we can see really cheap rehabs.
Yeah.
Where they spray epoxy the countertops to make them look like fake marble. And that's cheap.
Yeah.
Versus like deciding not to change all the door handles. And it's just a budget thing. Like you had $50,000, and you felt like you didn't have $55,000 to do it all. And now it's like we really need to step back and go, what's my highest and best use? Who am I selling it to? What are these little things going to add to the end user?
It's funny because I see a lot of houses where the kitchen's done up, the master bedroom's done up, new trim, new everything, and then you walk around and the rest of the trim is like old trim. I'm just like, you couldn't just like hit all those notes,
I'm going to give you the flipping secrets, right?
Yeah.
Women buy houses, they buy kitchens and master bedrooms.
Master bedrooms, yeah.
So you hit it. Like the kitchen and master bedroom are what's the selling feature.
I'll say this, that trim is not that expensive sometimes. They're like, 12-foot planks, and I don't know, like you can get like 5 of them for like $120. Well,
so here's the whole thing. Like I said, so you have this beautiful kitchen and this beautiful master bedroom. The rest of the house matters, just not quite as much.
I know.
So you have to... then you get the fancy door handles and all the stuff in these 2 rooms, and the rest of the house needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
It needs to feel good. Like these mental triggers for people are like, it has to be consistent throughout. You don't have to, have the highest end flooring and the 6 colors of paint on all the stuff, but it needs to be consistent throughout to make it feel like a quality rehab.
Well, that's me for consistency. Is like if you're gonna replace some of the trim, and you might as well just replace it all, because I think it's cheap enough and easy enough to do. But that's just my opinion.
Again,
stuff like that.
Very, very much like we've left basements. Different floors. Like you need to step back and get out of. Especially, my favorite comment to people is, "Are you ever going to live there?"
Yeah.
Like you love this one piece, or you like that one part, or you only have money to do this one thing. Like, ask your friends, ask your realtor, like ask the people, hey, how does it look? Get some different opinions, because we get so tied into these things, emotionally wrapped up
that's what my clients are saying though. That's because I'm walking around the house like, oh, I wish this was updated. I wish this was updated. I was like, yeah, we can get it done. It's really cheap. I swear, because I do see these cheap flips where I'm walking through it and I'm like, that's the $20 light from Home Depot, And I see a lot of those.
I do. We buy just as inexpensive products from Amazon, because we can really be much more decorative, and not have the same thing as everybody else. That I don't think, especially today, like you don't need a $3,000 chandelier. Like you can have a $300 chandelier.
Yeah.
As long as it's not the one that you walk into the Home Depot and it's the one hanging there that's on sale for $28.
Yeah.
Or $68 that everybody else has. Like, just being a little bit more considerate about where things are coming from, how they all fit together, that it doesn't look like a house that was remodeled 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
And that's our job as real estate professionals, even as realtors, like advising our clients of that stuff. Like,
I'll point it out even if I know my clients are gonna be like, oh, it's really that cheap, huh? I mean, at the end of the day, like I want them to know like this is what kind of flip or what kind of new construction quality this is,
Yeah, new construction is not much better. It's just all put in at the same time.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I see a lot of new constructions, especially in Portland, where they take a lot and they just raise it down and they build the cheapest, quickest, fastest new construction house. And like I said, I'm just like, okay, there's Glacier Bay there, and there's the same black rimmed light I see everywhere, that's LED. So I'm just like, oh, the cheap door handles, yeah, they really ran through this house quickly. So I point that out to my clients. I'm just like, maybe we could find something better, but it is what it is. And then just switching gears a little bit, obviously we want to congratulate you for just getting married to Jennifer. What was like the past weekend?
2 days ago, Saturday?
2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
Saturday?
Why aren't you on your honeymoon?
It is beautiful in Oregon right now. like it's really crappy in Oregon in February. That's,
that's true.
the winter.
Wait till
Right.
it gets gray. It
Right,
makes
right,
sense.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we know you have like this partnership you've had for like a couple years in terms of also with business. Can you
Yep.
kind of talk about that as well?
Well, if you've ever worked with partners, that's great. Sometimes not. This one's been a great one. We actually met on Facebook, so back in one of those relationships where you got to vet some people out. It's been great. She's been a realtor the entire time I knew her, and our visions align of what we want our futures to be, and we both definitely enjoy learning and growing and really stepping into the real estate field. So we've exponentially grown, just having each other to bounce stuff off of, and her knowledge being an agent, my knowledge with the construction side and learning lending and sort of the other pieces have been able to put together really nicely, and it's been great.
And what are you guys targeting now? It seems like you've been through a decent amount of flips and other projects at this point. Talked a little bit about creative financing. What is the sweet spot for you now in terms of like renovation, and is it single family stuff, or is it like multi-unit stuff, or?
It's a little both. Like we're definitely digging and looking into getting some smaller multifamily stuff, sort of breaking into that piece of the financing side and the operating side of 10 to 20 unit properties, and still doing some flips, and like we have some really creative deals that we put together that are midterm rentals, so they're kind of fun.
Oh, midterm rentals.
Yeah.
Well, what markets are you doing that in?
We have a midterm rental here. Actually, I'm a little nervous because I have no one coming in a week, and
How long have you had it for?
we bought it this summer.
Okay, and so far it's been mostly occupied.
It was occupied 3 days before it was ready. Like I literally. So we actually, I don't even own this place. It's great. It's a lease option. So we have a lease option on this condo with a 20-year option. So our lease payment is the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So explain how that deal worked. So you found somebody that was.
Someone came to us.
Oh, someone came to you.
Yeah. They wanted out of this property. They hated the HOA. They home ownership wasn't what they envisioned it to be.
Okay.
They were a younger couple, and I kid you not, they said, ever since we quit our jobs, our quality of life has been exponentially better. I
How they're making
said,
money.
I bet. And they wanted out. So it was a quintessential flip. It was, cat pee and crappy carpet, and they had lived there for 3 years and never had gotten a bed.
Wow.
It's just interesting how people live and, what is important to them. And so they had actually already talked to our agent. I told them, this $330,000 house at probably ARV, they owed $250 in its current condition. I'm not sure that they would not be paying to sell it,
right?
With fees and everything. Yep. It needed probably $30,000.
Yep.
Plus cleaned up and everything else. So I couldn't buy it as a flip. It didn't have enough equity.
Yeah.
Right.
I couldn't finance it. The financing cost piece.
Yep.
So I came back and said, well, here's my best option is we can take over basically payments. So it's similar to a sub 2, where
is this like a rental arbitrage? I think that's what they call it, basically.
It is a rental arbitrage.
Yeah.
Little more cloak and dagger, I guess, of that, where we actually have the option to purchase.
It's a lease to own type.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lease with the option to purchase.
Right.
So only our purchase option is the declining balance of the principal of the mortgage.
Okay.
So we have a 20-year option. So in 20 years, 7 years left on the mortgage, $30,000 left on it. That would be our purchase price.
I see.
Then.
So whatever the balance is your purchase price. Got it. I see. Interesting. Yeah.
And so what it does is it gets them out of this stress.
Right. You're making the payments for them.
Yeah, we're making them direct. Like we have
through an escrow company. Yeah.
We're not. We have a power of attorney, but I just have it all set up online.
Oh.
It's just so easy
okay.
now.
Oh, you just go right to the lender. You mean?
Yeah, it's just easy.
Okay.
It's so easy to get done now, so I have to pay attention a little bit more attention. But a title company or an escrow company will do it. They charge like $30 a month. So it's just something that was easy to set up. I'm not too busy for it. So
it's basically like owning a place, or the option to own a place if you think about it in a sense, right? They're getting their payments, and whenever you feel like the balance is like, I want to buy this, you can just drop the money on it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or not.
Or not. Yeah.
Or not.
For 19 and a half years. Like, we did some math on it. Like, if we waited, 20 years and then we kept it at 90% occupancy, which has been easy so far.
Yeah.
Like, it's about a $500,000 asset.
Yeah.
So.
And how much did you come in with them for them to walk away?
The lease was the consideration for the option.
Okay.
So the basically a 1-year lease with a 20-year extension was our consideration.
Okay, so you didn't have to come in with a big down payment.
No, and then we put a $25,000 private note on it the first day.
Okay.
Paid for the renovations and all the furnishings.
Okay, so they were just happy for you for you guys to take it over.
Yeah.
They get a little bit of cash flow over their mortgage, basically.
No,
none at all.
No. Our payment is the principal, interest, tax.
Oh, just exactly that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's varying. So as anything, insurance goes up or taxes go up.
Right.
Like we cover all
And
that.
the HOA too.
And the HOA. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so they just wanted to walk away clean in a sense.
Yes.
Okay.
They would have loved some money, but
It just wasn't in the cards.
It
for them.
wasn't.
Yeah.
If they would have cleaned it up, they would have put in the work. Like
Yeah.
they could have made some money, but they didn't want to. They wanted to walk away at that time, and that was just the convenience of we're gonna leave it like it is. It's full of whatever it's got.
And they did just quit their jobs just to go enjoy life. I mean, that sounds nice to me. I wish I could just get up and go.
Yes, I think the reality of that in the moment is great, and I think in time it's different.
Of course.
I feel that having conversations with them.
Yeah.
So it was the best for them is what they wanted at the time. So, we offered to kind of list it. We offered just a couple of options. And
No, I mean, it's great that you guys found a solution that kind of helped them out and
Yeah.
gave you an option to obviously get some cash flow over time
Yeah.
and potentially another asset when or if you decide to buy it.
it would not cash flow as a regular rental right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's kind of the risk of that. So it is a midterm or short term. So it's a bit of work. Like we're putting effort in to make that happen. We put in the cash to furnish it, to replace the kitchen.
And I'm sure you're thinking like down the line it's going to appreciate and it'll have some value. So if you do decide to buy it, then it might be a good option.
I think it already has value. I think its
Yeah.
real value is in that 340 range now, 335.
Right.
We're into it for 255 plus 25. So what 280? It's like there's value.
Yeah,
It's a
weird.
break even at this moment when you think about closing costs and everything else. But
I mean, when you think about it, when you have like obviously title in hand and everything, and then it's like, oh, my asset's appreciating. Right now, it's not your asset that's appreciating in a sense, but you could just make it your asset.
it is my asset in the fact that I have paper.
Yeah.
Right. So when you own a house, what do you have? You have
Yeah,
paper.
you own the debt, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't even own the debt.
Or that's true. It's technically not in your name. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's
like-
better.
But you own the
I own-
rights to it.
I own the rights to it.
Yeah.
So it's even better.
Yeah.
Really, the disadvantage is probably the tax deduction piece. Like even though we
Oh yeah,
haven't set
because the
up a business.
1098 goes to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we're writing it off because it's a lease. So we're writing 100% of the payment off versus.
Oh. There you go.
So it's
There you go.
yeah. Our other piece that we're really focused on.
And you're taking advantage of the principal pay down still.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing we're really focused on is buying houses, property, and debt.
Right.
When you're working on getting private debt on property, like would I buy a house in Portland? Yeah, I would buy a house that I would never actually own in Portland, if I could buy it at a value, and get a note from the owner as an owner carry, second piece on it, that I could recollateralize. And so thinking about buying a house, like you buy the house and you get debt. If you can buy the house and buy debt, and debt that you can move, recollateralize into a different market, sell the house, take the cash out, not pay taxes on that, and then move that into different areas is probably the biggest focus that we're working on right now.
Interesting.
How we're refocusing on other states.
Sorry, switching back to the midterm rental. How are you advertising that? And what did you have to do? So you had to furnish it.
If you know Shona Lupus, so she's the midterm guru. Like we've been working with her a lot on it. She's actually local here in Portland.
Oh, okay.
Does a bunch of stuff. She's pretty awesome. She helped us get set up on 5 or 6 different sites. So Furnish Finder, Airbnb.
So you're having an agent that will.
And you just do 30 plus.
No, she just worked with us to kind of give us some guidelines on how to set those things up.
She just kind of consulted with you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she coaches and do some of the stuff, but really helped us with what has worked and what is working.
And are you finding a lot of nurses, or what is the clientele been?
It's interesting. Like we're pretty new to it, so we got a couple months into it. A direct lead came for our first tenant. We were ready. The house was ready, but it wasn't furnished July 1st. And then I got a phone call. Hey, I have someone who wants to move in on July 4th, which was Tuesday over a holiday weekend.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So we had a housewarming party at our house on the 1st. We negotiated a lease for her to move in on the 4th. We had our house party, and then the 3rd and 4th, we literally furnished this place 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I never spent $600 at Goodwill before for knickknacks and stuff, but it was so. That was just a regular lease through Multifamily Northwest. We wrote a lease with them, with a regular deposit. We kind of worked through Furnish Finder on that. And then the current tenant is an Airbnb for 30 days or more.
Yeah, 30 days plus.
VRBO. I have it on Zillow. And there's a couple other.
But it's enough to cover the home mortgage and the HOA fee. And
it's 25% over what we would get as a long-term rental.
Okay. Yeah.
So it wouldn't quite pay for everything as a regular long-term rental.
Right.
So it's close.
A little bit more active, but
a little bit, but like it's monthly, so like we so we are cleaning every 30 to 60 days.
Right.
It's not as bad.
Not as bad.
It's not nearly it's.
And have you found tenants that will stay for longer than the minimum period, or has it been
our experience? No. Like relative, like 5-6 weeks. And I had someone who was asking me today, like yesterday, I'm like slightly freaking out, like, okay, these guys are moving out in a week. Like I'm actually talking to Shona about like, what do I do? How do we kind of push this? How do we, we're just talking about some strategies to kind of renew stuff or put it back out there again, or, get a little more activity, with the price or timeline. Do we take it down to 25 or, these little things, and updating these websites to kind of push us back to the top. And as I wake up to a new request for 2 months,
nice.
That's in 2 weeks from today. So like, that's like a week and a half of vacancy. That's fine.
Right.
We charge a premium. So
cool. And do you feel like this is something that you like and you want to keep scaling with, or is it just if the opportunity is right, or?
We want to live in Florida, so like it's like the perfect scenario for us where we want to live 2 places. So we want to winter there, and the prime rental season is in the summer when we don't want to be there. So I see this as a great opportunity for us to have a second home that kind of house hack and pays for itself, and then do the same thing with the house here. So I see that. I feel like Airbnb probably has a little bit more work than I want to do without having someone just totally manage it. So it seems like it's just a good viable, like when things work out great, like it's just a great quiver to have in the bow there.
Right, totally.
Yeah, and so obviously a lot of our audience, they're first-time investors. What would you tell someone who wanted to get into real estate, how they could get started?
Get started.
That's it?
Like get started. The story of the 2015, I took that Than Merrill Flip This House class then when I started that construction company, and I was like, I'm too busy, to start flipping homes. Like I've got all this other stuff that's not paying me very well. And I also couldn't get over the fact that how do you find a house that's discounted so much that you could actually make money on it more than once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime? And it was back to networking. So it took me 5 years to get into it. And I think we bought 10 houses our first year.
Jeez.
And so it was like, once you step in and meet someone who's kind of doing it and gives you a little bit of guidance, like it's a lot easier than it feels like it should be.
Yeah.
Which also gets a lot of people in trouble. Like this house that we just sold, like it was a lot of stuff going on. You know, timing was great to buy it, but the overall time it took to finish it and sell it just killed the deal.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, you know, it's like a batting average. Sometimes you swing and you miss sometimes.
oh yeah, so definitely be prepared for some losses, but how do you mitigate that? And I'm a big partner person. Like, meet people that you get along with, that have similar goals, and start doing stuff together. Start, taking small swings. Like Bob Boxler, a local investor, his book is, don't swing for the fences. Like, it's base hits, it's bunts, it's doing those little things. Like, start going to meetups. Someone was like, "Oh, we're definitely going to get to a meetup this year," and I'm like, that sounds like you're never going. Yeah. Like, there's a meetup every week.
One meetup for the year. Yeah.
Well, they were going to get to their first one.
Get to their first.
And it's just like, how hard is that?
It's dinner time. Go have a beer and eat dinner and go talk to people.
I think people are intimidated by what they don't know.
Yeah.
And they think that everybody out there who's networking is just experts. And I can tell you for sure that we are not all experts. We make a lot of mistakes to grow, and that's just how it works. Like, your first deal is your best deal, even if you lost money, just because you're getting out there and doing it. And
you're learning.
Don't listen to the people who lost. They knew someone who had a rental, and they had to replace the toilet 17 times, and they never paid. Like, this is back to the referral. Did that person ever actually own a rental? Or did they hear someone's horror stories about being a crappy landlord? Which I was a crappy landlord, so like I have that personal experience of like how you think it should happen and do it versus like meeting people who are actually doing it well, and then learning from them. And like, it's sometimes far too easy to buy a house, surprisingly. Like, and meeting the right people that get you in there. Same thing with multifamily. Like, you can get into multifamily with far less than you think. It's not free. You can't do it with no money down. You can't do it with, all somebody else's money. You have to have experience. It takes money to advertise and show up. Like, even those networking, like, you got to have the time to go do that.
Yeah.
You got to pay your $20 for your 2 beers, or take people out to lunch, or take other people out to go meet them on their terms, their time to learn that stuff. And
be a value add person.
I think it's a cliche. I think be receptive. Like, I don't need you to, for the most part, I don't need people to bring value into my life. Like, if I see value in you and I see that you can help me in some way, I'll probably ask. But if you ask for a suggestion of how to get your first house, and I tell you, hey, go talk to this person and that person, and then I see you 6 months later and you're like, oh, I still haven't got to that house, and I say, did you go talk to those people? And you say, no, I haven't got around to it yet. Now I'm annoyed and I'll never talk to you again. Not really, but that's
I see it as adding value in a sense. Obviously, like, listening, like, when you listen and you follow people's advice, I feel like that's a value add. Especially people want to mentor.
Yeah.
People are happy to mentor you, and as long as you do what they say and show up on time, and maybe help them with little things here and there, like,
and that's part of networking. Like, if I get somebody that I think is gonna meld well with Kurt, and I send him over, that Kurt's gonna remember that. So it's part of your reputation. And or if I tell Steven, I met this kid, he's super excited to meet you, and I send him over there, and Steven's just like, I never heard from that guy.
I use that as kind of a thing to settle people out too. Like, I'm like, hey, could you email me next week and set up a time to go meet or whatever, versus setting something up right there. Like, I purposely go, here's my email, reach out to me next week, and let them follow through on that.
That's how
and if they don't, then it's just kind of
fall off the wayside.
That's right. I don't have to deal with it. Versus if it does, then it's like, I'm excited. Like, awesome. That's great.
I know we talked to you for a couple months back. Like, we got to get you on the podcast. And then finally got that email out. So, that's how we do it.
I think you guys hit me up on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, at some point I was like, we just got to get this to happen.
I'm not a messenger guy. So.
Okay. Make it happen.
And so if people wanted to contact you, pick your brain more, meet up, go to one of your meetups, how is the best way to find you?
Probably most active on Facebook. We have a Invest Northwest.
Not Facebook Messenger, but Facebook.
I will look. No promises how long it will take. Invest Northwest is our Facebook group.
Okay,
Facebook page.
Invest Northwest.
We do a monthly meetup there, and then we do an annual real estate summit for investors here in Portland. And then it's Kurt Mclaughlin, Kurt M333 on Facebook. So
Great. Well, thank you so much.
absolutely, guys.
Really appreciate the knowledge.